rest of it. But anyway, Maurice Strong, when she said to him, well, why didn't you go into politics to change things if you think that was the problem? He said, you can't do anything as a politician. I'm going to the UN where I can get all the funding I want and where I'm not accountable to anybody. And he set up the United Nations Environment Program, out of which came the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now, one of my experiences, I've chaired commissions and been on commissions of inquiry. The way that the politicians control commissions of inquiry is in the terms of reference. And if you go and look at the terms of reference for the IPCC, the first thing they give is the definition of climate change. And it effectively limits them to only looking at climate changes due to human causes. And if you look at any of their reports, they say, well, what are the major forcings? That is, what are the things that cause climate to change? All the forcings they list are human in origin. They don't even talk about natural forcings of climate. And we've talked a lot here about the sun. Well, that they don't even include the Milankovitch effect. It's not in their computer models. And yet we know it's one of the major mechanisms of long-term and actually year-to-year climate change. So Maurice Strong narrowed it down to the CO2 for that reason, and that's why it's become the focus for the whole world. And, of course, the politicians bought into it, Al Gore in particular. That's the reason that one little brown wart on the climate body has become the focus of attention.
How could other scientists throughout the world, I understand on your site, Bob, at Ice Age Now, that you said 31,000 scientists do not accept global warming or CO2 warming or as the cause of warming. How can any scientist then get on board something that is already by definition skewed in its definition? The terms of reference are tying the hands of real discovery. How is it that scientists can wake up every day?
Well, I can give you just a little microcosm of an answer there. In Washington State, the state climatologist, well, to begin with, the politicians said that the snowpack in the Cascades has been going down because of anthropogenic global warming. The state climatologist for the state of Washington disagreed with it. The politicians fired him. In Oregon, the state climatologist said, no, humans are not causing this. It's a natural cycle. The politicians fired him. In the state of Delaware, the state climatologist, he's a climatologist. That's what he's paid for. He said, no, it's not humans. They fired him. In Virginia, now Patrick Michaels, climatologist who's written books on climatology, he said, no, the humans are not causing this. The politicians fired them. Well, when you are a scientist and you see your boss get fired, what are you going to do? You're going to shut up. And I think, these people are being bullied, more than bullied. Their very livelihood is threatened. So I can understand how scientists who disagree won't speak up. And even the ones who do speak up, then they're marginalized, or they're fired, or they're called crazy, or they're called on the fringe. Dr. William Gray in Colorado is the top hurricane chaser in the world. He's been doing this for 40 years, and he calls it a total scam, and so they're marginalizing him. To me, that's how it's happening. I think it's an absolute shame.
I think that just to support what Joe is saying, and I've gone through this myself, and you only got to Google my name and you'll see the personal attacks on me. But I think that to put this in a wider context is important. Science works by creating theories or hypotheses. And then what happens is, and those are based on assumptions, then what happens is other scientists who are skeptics, because all scientists are skeptics, challenge that theory and they test it. And if the theory holds up, then at some point it becomes a law, such as Newton's theory of gravity became Newton's law of gravity and so on. And but what happened in this case was that they came out with this, and we've already heard the term, anthropogenic global warming theory, AGW, that they came out with this theory and they said, CO2 is a greenhouse gas, it traps heat. If it increases, the temperature of the Earth will go up, and the amount of CO2 will increase because humans are putting more in the atmosphere. That became a fact almost immediately. And Richard Lindzen, many years ago, the Alfred Sloan Professor of Meteorology at MIT, he made the comment, comment years ago in Discovery magazine that the consensus was reached before the research had even begun. Well, then when some of us came along and started to question and try to do the research, we were immediately marginalized, as has just been identified. And but there's other factors involved with it. And I understand. I mean, I spoke in Winnipeg in Canada here a while ago, and three government scientists came up after and said, we agree with you, but we're afraid to say anything. Now, you could say, well, where's your courage? It's a free society. But I understand. People have mortgages. They have, children and so on. But there's another interesting part to this, Kim, and that is an awful lot of scientists have said to me, look, I don't agree with the global warming thing, but the minute I say it, I'm branded as a conservative, a right-wing nut. And I'm a socialist, or I'm a left-wing, or I'm a Democrat, and I don't want to be classified politically that way. So again, they keep their mouths shut. But as the comment was just made, the term bullying applies. They've effectively blocked the scientific method. But of course, the other thing that they're confronted with is that science has continued in spite of that, very slowly, and of course, all of the evidence coming forward shows that the theory is simply not correct, and that's why they're scrambling now to push data out and try and convince the politicians before they abandon it and abandon the Kyoto Accord, which is due to die shortly. So that's the history of it, and that's why CO2 became the focus.
There's an international treaty, as we all know, that is about to be signed in Copenhagen in December of this year, that, if signed, will change the face of life on Earth for all of us by creating taxes and footprints and regulation and monitoring and being penalized if you take up too much CO2 or use too much carbon. And my question is the following. I read the book, The Inconvenient Truth. How could a book like that with supposed computer modeling, and I saw the movie, how could something that elaborate be so wrong? How could that be constructed as being science?
Well, of course, it wasn't science. The one thing you've got to give to Gore's movie, Inconvenient Truth, is it's a superb piece of propaganda. It deserved the Oscar because it's from the land of make-believe. But it didn't deserve the Nobel Prize because the week before Gore got the Nobel Prize for that movie, a UK court ruled that there were 9 major errors and that the movie was politically biased. And obviously the Nobel Committee may not have seen the outcome of that court report, but all of the information in that the court used to reach those rulings was out there on the web. So clearly the Nobel Committee didn't do their homework and made a political decision. And of course they've done that now with Obama getting the Nobel Prize. But
what about the computer modeling though? Stay with the computer modeling.
Yeah.
There is some phenomenon.
The computer modeling is at the heart of all of this because the computer models, of course, have become the bane both of economics and of climate science and a lot of other science. I mean, the most stunning statement so far in the 21st century was when the former chairman of the Federal Reserve, Greenspan, and he appeared before the Waxman committee, Henry Waxman's committee, and he said, well, my model was wrong. And it was just a statement like that, no apology, no nothing. My economic model was wrong. He said, well, how long have you been using this model? 40 years. Well, I watched the introduction of models and modelers taking over all the climate conferences and dominating everybody because, we know better. Our models show this, that, and the other. The models simply don't work. You cannot model the complexity that is the Earth's weather system. And I have no problem with them using the models in the laboratory, in the universities, fine. But the minute you go public with the outcome of your models and say, no, this is accurate, this is predictable, and that becomes the basis of policy, then a whole different set of responsibilities kick in, and those simply haven't been addressed.
Well, is that also because whatever's put in the model, like model in, model out, it's as good as whatever you put into the model? Isn't that the nature of a model? Like, it's only going to be as good as the factors?
I don't want to dominate the conversation, so Joe, you can respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Garbage in, garbage out is what they say. And as Tim mentioned, the solar factor is minimized in the models. In fact, in the last run, in the most recent IPCC report, they downgraded the solar factor by a factor of 7 based on a single paper with an untested model that showed that the sun was not as important as they originally thought. and they certainly continued on with their CO2. They also built into the model a lot of what we call positive